and didn't get the
Richardson had a
memo.
better day for Indianapolis than McGahee had for Cleveland.
Yeah, Richardson did, but there was a lot of talk about this
Who in the
trade.
wild world of sports Indy would have went into San Francisco and won the way they won? 27-7?
They out hustled. They just beat them at their own game. They out physical them. The Colin Kaepernick he just struggled the last 2 weeks.
He looked like
now.
a rookie, didn't he?
Yeah, people are starting to figure him out. Seattle, but then again, it is at Seattle, and they hardly lose.
Yeah, but how the hell do you lose to Indianapolis at home, San Francisco? How the hell does that happen?
I mean, they only had one touchdown that entire game, and Kaepernick, people now have footage of him. They're gonna figure out his flaws, if you will, and clearly Andy paid close attention to that game last week. Look, you just gotta clear. You can't have open spots for him when he makes those long ones. Andy made sure that he wasn't effective with his feet, and when they relied on him to throw, he wasn't that effective either. Andrew Luck's back at the Bay Area, and he beat his former head coach.
That's ridiculous, man.
That was a big win. I mean, kudos to Jim Irsay for making that Richardson trade possible. And how ironic that it was Richardson scored the first points for Indianapolis. But Bradshaw, that was his game. Richardson, he contributed, but that was more Bradshaw than Richardson.
Ebo, you're exactly right. San Francisco needs to get their panties straight now. They're looking horrible. They are. That was terrible.
And yet they're all 2, and Indy is now 2-1. Here's another shocker. Atlanta went to Miami
and lose. How the hell something like that happen?
Now, is it safe to say that Miami's the surprise team of the season thus far?
Do you think?
Either them or Kansas City, but then you have Andy Reid and Alex Smith, and they would look good, but you just didn't expect them to go 3-0. But Miami shocked me the most. Ryan Tannehill, all this talk about Luck and RG3 and Kaepernick and Wilson, he doesn't get the attention the way that those guys do, but he best to get some attention now because 3-0 start. And look, they could very well, I'm not saying they will, but they could challenge the Patriots for that AFC East title.
What are you smoking?
I mean, I get that New England, they 3-0 too, but look at the receivers. Amendola's hurt, Gronkowski is hurt, and even when they come back, Brady's he still haven't quite getting it with the young receivers. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying it's a possibility. They could challenge this team. In New England, they got to face Atlanta. And Atlanta's going to want to redeem themselves after what happened. Tannehill stepped up yesterday, and he came through. And Matt Ryan, look, they are a great team at home, but boy, do they struggle on the road. And it showed yesterday. They dominated most of this game, and Miami came from behind and pulled through.
Yeah, Tannehill got sacked 5 times, and Matt Ryan didn't get sacked at all.
That's even crazier. The dude that gets sacked the most wins.
Tannehill's quarterback rating is higher than Matt Ryan's. Tannehill's 94.5. Matt Ryan's was 84.4.
Well, in all fairness to Atlanta, they did have some, injuries. Steven Jackson wasn't there. A couple of key pieces wasn't there, but you still got Matt Ryan. You still got Waddy Wright. You still got Julio Jones and Gonzalez. You still should be able to win that game yesterday.
I bet you Gonzalez is saying, I didn't come back for this crap.
Yeah. Tony Gonzalez came. He was on the retirement, and the team convinced him to play one more season.
Yeah, why did I come back for this crap?
Now they looking up to the New Orleans Saints right now in the NFC South. But Miami, Mike Wallace, he still haven't lived up to that big contract, but Tannehill's finding a good talking and heart line. and some unknown people. And I said this earlier. I'm not saying that they just gonna beat New England. I'm just saying that New England may be in for a challenge, at least for this season, as it pertains to the title. And because of New England's issues offensively, despite yesterday's game, I'm talking of the first two games that they had, and how Brady hasn't really been in sync with the receivers, the young receivers. They could look. Miami's going in there more confident. This is not New England should just put a W on the scoreboard. Don't sleep on Miami.
Yeah, well, it'll be nice to see New England and Miami play each other.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely be interesting.
Can you believe that Carolina and Atlanta have the same freaking record, 1-2? What the hell's going on here with this football
Well,
season?
Atlanta more surprisingly than Carolina. With Atlanta, you get Steven Jackson, you get OC Uno, and they fall to 1-2. As for Carolina, they always look like a team. The problem with Carolina is the games are close and they didn't pull through. Atlanta so far are just not living up to the expectations that attached to them.
So even though, because I know Ebo picked Denver for tonight's win, so even if Denver wins, I'll still be in first place by a point because Ebo is now in second place. And then Dez Dispenser moved up into third. Schmedley moved up into fourth. Kenny went down to fifth. Faden's in sixth. Gio, who was up there in the top three, is now in seventh. Renegade is in eighth. Lions from Lee Summit is in ninth. Gary Pink Sheep Boy, One Arm Bandits, is in 10th. The Bastards, who I believe is Andrew, is in 11th place. And Lucky Lady and Pelican Bay Slammers suck totally because they haven't made their picks at all.
The next game we'll get into, I say, another New York team, or pair of New York teams, if you will, Buffalo.
How the hell does that happen?
You know, Gino I guess he just outperformed EJ.
This football season is really starting to tick me off.
And, you know, like we said earlier, the Jets have a better record than See, usually the Jets are known for reasons outside the football. For what they do on the field. And Rex Ryan is a skinnier dude. And yet that defense, he's shown that he still could be a defensive mind. All I'm gonna say is that, let's see, they just had a bunch of field goals. Buffalo did, and Gino. I mean, look, he's a rookie. He's gonna make his mistakes. So did EJ, but he just made more plays.
Yeah, Geno Smith threw 2 interceptions where EJ didn't, but EJ got sacked 8 times for a total of 35 yards, whereas Geno didn't get sacked at all.
I guess it's just a reminder why Rex Ryan's still a great defensive mind that he is. And yeah, they're 2-1 right now, and I still don't expect neither of these teams to compete with Miami or New England. But I don't know. Maybe it's just a case of the future. You got Tannehill, Smith, and Manuel. Tom Brady, he can't be quarterbacking forever. But luckily for the Patriots, they're 3-0 right now. Now let's get to that game because Tampa Bay is, I gotta say, let's see. Would it be safe to say that they are the worst team?
No,
out of
Jacksonville is the worst.
Oh yeah. Well, I'd say next to worst. I would say 23-3 the final score. Look like Tom Brady is getting in sync with his receivers, at least for that game. You had Reeves and Golson. Now, the same dude who got suspended but got his appeal, instead of taking a suspension, he gets fined $100,000. And they got beat by a bunch of young, undrafted receivers. That's embarrassing if you're Reeves. He's supposed to be the best cornerback in the game, and you get outperformed by a bunch of undrafted
receivers. You got
taken
to school.
You got schooled by a bunch of rookies. Undrafted, not just rookies, undrafted rookies. no Gronkowski, no Amendola. You couldn't stop Tompkins. You couldn't stop those guys. I get Tom Brady throwing them the ball, but you had the chance to stop them. Come on, Reeves. Supposed to be the best cornerback in the game.
Supposed to be.
And
Yeah,
Josh
take him to
Freeman,
school.
I think it's time for Tampa Bay to part ways with him because he's just not getting it done with that team. He had it 2 years ago, but right now he's progressed. He's like the Mark Sanchez out of the starting quarterbacks right now. He's regressing. So, and Shiano, he's on the hot seat right now, most definitely. That team is just not in sync right now, man. So 3-0. They got a big game against Atlanta. We definitely will see how that unfolds. And yeah, on to the next game here. Dallas Cowboys beating the St. Louis Rams 31-7.
Theo is saying the two experts were 10-5 and 8-7. See, it was a tough week for everybody.
It was definitely a tough week. I mean, it was just not good, man. And yet, there's still 2-3 point difference between all of us in this second pool. But Tony Romo and company, this is the second week in a row that St. Louis got blowout in the early going. The only difference is they made it competitive down the stretch against Atlanta. Not the case with Dallas. Dallas offense had their way with St. Louis. They had dropped the 1 and 2. And yes, for the time being, the Cowboys are on top of the NFC East. But let's not just give them the division title just yet. Let's see how they do down the stretch. To quote Stephen A., this team is an accident waiting to happen. We definitely will see. I guess we just go on and skip to the next game. Probably the blowout, part of obvious blowout. Seattle crushed Jacksonville.
Yeah, well, if anybody picked Jacksonville, they got to be a moron.
45 team. Who would have? I think they scored the most points out of everyone of yesterday. Yeah, they did. 45 points. Chicago scored 40. They're the only two teams that had the 40-point mark yesterday. Russell Wilson had 4 touchdowns. And then Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll, if this game, he would have just kept those starters in and made it even more lopsided. But after the 4 touchdowns, Wilson was done, bringing Tavares Jackson. And Jacksonville did manage to score some points late. Chad Henne, not much of a factor. Blaine Gabbert will be back to start for the next Jaguars game.
That team's a joke. That team's just a joke and a half. But I bet you Jacksonville could have beat the Giants yesterday.
I wouldn't go that far.
Hey, you know something? The 3-0 Miami Dolphins go into the 3-0 New Orleans Saints next week on Monday Night Football, dude.
I'm looking forward to that. We're really going to see what the Dolphins are made of. At least I want to see what they're made of. They look good, but the New Orleans Saints, they look just even more good.
I should get tickets to the Chargers game next week. I really should. They're playing the Cowboys. They're playing the Cowgirls, man. I should go over there with a sign.
The division leading
can't
Cowboys.
Stand the Cowboys.
The division leading Cowboys.
Yeah, they suck. I need San Diego to beat them. Sports World Radio hates the Dallas Cowboys. And walk around the whole stadium. Just
oh man.
Yeah,
so
I got it. Wearing a Giants jersey. Doing it. Yeah, that'll rock.
Seahawks now 3-0. Jacksonville Jaguars.
There's some good games next week. Giants at Kansas City, Dallas and San Diego, Miami at New Orleans, Jacksonville at Indianapolis. There's some good games next. Detroit and Chicago. Some tough games to pick next week.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be some tough games to pick, no doubt about it. Um, the